So I like that that student had said, worrying about reading is not one of the things she worries about anymore. Isn't that what we want all our students to do? It's okay for them to make mistakes, but we want them to try, right? So, the science behind reading progress. And I know a lot of us might not have delved into the science of reading yet, but I just want to assure you that reading progress isn't just another thing that's really cool that's going to save us some time that we're going to add on top of our already toolbox of tech tools. Reading progress was designed with educators and with experts in the field of the science of reading. And so I'm going to share all of these credentials with you and all of these experts' opinions with you in the resources. But I just wanted to point that out first, because oftentimes we find a lot of tools in our gathering of resources as educators, and we might not know the purpose behind the tools besides to sell an app. And I can guarantee you that Microsoft Reading Progress, their intent is to make better readers and to open the world of literacy and accessibility to all. And so with that in mind, they reached out to the experts, the educators, and the scientists of the science of reading. So I wanted to assure you of that first as we get started. So as I said, these case studies and the results of the case studies, most importantly, will be in the resources that's provided throughout the session and at the end again. Part of the reading study, of course, is always, or the focus study is always to find a focus group. Well, instead of just finding maybe a group of struggling readers, a class of 20 somewhere, maybe a couple classes, they really dove deep into the different levels of readers. Maybe they're all non-readers, but different levels of non-readers are really the focus and how we can best help them at their level. Like an adult reader that struggles does not need a kindergarten phonics curriculum, right? And so reading progress and Microsoft and these experts get that. Like they each need something different. So all of that is in the resource. But ultimately, this entire screen asks, who is reading progress for? Reading progress is for all of us. Reading progress is research-based, and you'll be happy to see that the amazing Mike Tholfsen was just, well, Microsoft was just awarded reading research-based certificate from Digital Promise. So when you talk to your administrators, your fellow teachers, everybody you're going to want to talk to about this, and they say, what's the research? You'll have that in your hand, my friends. But enough about that. Let's get back to our story. Today, I will walk you through the flow of using reading progress from the perspective of our characters that we were introduced to. All right. And we know the first thing that must happen in a classroom is the teacher must create the assignment. Nothing happens in the classroom until the teacher creates the environment, right? And so that's why you're so powerful, educators. Let's look at how the teacher will create the assignment in Teams. You'll notice if you're familiar with Teams that, wow, this looks just like every other assignment I create. Yes, it does. So there's no new learning curve there. But what if I don't use Teams yet? Well, my friends, you'll see that this is probably the easiest platform to assign work on because it's very intuitive, even if you're new to Teams. All right. And we, I think, still have the experts in the room, Jenna Lee, who just wrote the Teams playbook. So I think they're going to do a session during this series on using Teams in the classroom. So make sure to check them out. Right now, we're not going to deep dive in how to do Teams assignments. We're going to focus just on reading progress. So when I get to my reading progress, you'll see I've highlighted here this attach button. So reading progress isn't an app you need to add to your Teams. It's not an extension. It is part of reading progress. I'm sorry, it is part of Teams. And so we're going to click on that attach clip, and we're going to find reading progress right there waiting for us. And then we're going to click on that, and we're going to be presented with this amazing pop-up. Then we're given two options. When we select reading progress in a moment, we're going to see a live demo of this, and I'm going to deep dive into why we, of course, can use the upload Word or PDF with anything you already have. So oftentimes, teachers that I've mentored, just kind of dismissed that sample library because they thought that was a practice library, but I'm going to show you why that sample library is so powerful in just a moment. So when you assign either of those reading passages in the team's assignment, you'll see that you're brought to a lot of options you can choose for your teams. You can view the assignment in student view. You are able to select many parameters. Maybe you want to limit the number of attempts your students get. Since I'm a second grade teacher and I want them to reread for fluency 90% of the time when I'm not assessing time, then I put the number of attempts as unlimited, and I require them to do at least 2 attempts. And I'll show you how they're going to do that in a moment. You can also limit the time and set different parameters. Some of your students might be shy, so you don't have to record their video. So you can turn that off so their video is not there, but it still gives you the same strong analytics that we're going to see right now. Once you click next up there on the top right, you're going to be brought back to this assignments page. In the beginning, maybe I didn't even do the title yet. I just dove into my reading progress. And I'm going to show you why in a moment you might not title it right away because you want to select the passage if you're not sure of the passage. All right. And then you assign it just like you would any other team's assignment. Before we go any further, I want to stop and talk about assigning ReadWorks with readworks.org. In that, I mean using that sample library. So let's look at what, and maybe you'll finally get to see me since you can't see my camera right now. So let's look at a live demo of the power of that sample library. Hello, my friends. Welcome to my Teams page. I just want to do a quick demo. This is going to be quick, fast. I just want to show you how easy it is to do this process. And I want to emphasize why it's important to not disregard those sample passages. So we're going to take everything we just saw in those sample pages and apply it right now. All right. So here we go. I want to create an assignment. Remember, reading progress is inside the assignments in Teams. So where did we find that? Oh, yeah. I want to attach because it's inside. I got to keep digging just a little, right? So then I'm going to click on reading progress and I get this wonderful screen of options. Here's where I want to elaborate a little on our thinking. So we know we can upload something or we're going to browse this sample library. And I really want to emphasize this sample library. So I'm a second grade teacher right now. And I noticed down here that it says reading passages by ReadWorks. I use ReadWorks in science to build background knowledge, in social studies to, learn about content from real world articles and things. And so, wow, I was excited to see that it's not just some words or some stories somewhere, right? So I also try to connect learning. So for example, I know in Unit 1 Science, we're talking about matter. And solids and liquids is a big part of that. And I usually go to ReadWorks to get an article on that. Well, I see solids and liquids right here. And it's a passage I was already familiar with. So even if you're not already familiar with those articles, I want to tell you that they're very beneficial. All right. Another thing I want to talk about in this sample library is that you can assign based on your student's reading level, and there will be passages in here based on those reading levels. However, I encourage you to assign a passage based on their current grade level. So what are they expected to do? The reason I do that is, well, I'm second grade, so I need to quickly accelerate them. Another reason is I need to assess and progress monitor how they're doing towards their goal. And I don't want to start way back there. I want to start right here, even if it's only 2% accuracy today. Tomorrow it's going to be 3% accuracy, but it's going to be 3% accuracy on their grade level. So we're, accelerating towards the goal. Of course, we're going to differentiate. Of course, we're going to scaffold. But I just want to make that point a little known. All right. So I know I want to assign this solids and liquids second grade passage that's in ReadWorks. So how do I connect it to ReadWorks? Well, you see my second tab up here is ReadWorks. And I'm going to quickly log in as an educator. ReadWorks is free if you don't have an account. I have placed the link to the resource readworks.org in your resources. So to connect it to this passage, solids and liquids, second grade even gives me the level and how many words, not a lot of information over there in reading progress. So in ReadWorks, I'm going to find content. I simply type in the title that I got from reading progress, right? Sample library, and I see it right here. And I know it's the same passage because I can see a summary of it here. When I click on it, it's going to show me the whole passage in ReadWorks. Also, it's going to show me a vocabulary activity and a question set. So I can choose to assign this in ReadWorks a full question set or an express question set. So dive into ReadWorks and find out the difference in those. When I click on assign over here in ReadWorks, another best practice for building background knowledge and helping students to really use their decoding skills for unfamiliar words is to allow them to use audio, even if it's not in their plan. Allow them to have audio when they're, tackling new concepts and new text. All right. So that's why I like that they hear the words over here in reading progress. They're hearing it read to them, because if they're unfamiliar words, then they're going to go back. They're not going to memorize the word, but they're going to use their decoding strategy. And when it's time to attack that word, they're going to know to go from liquid. They're going to know liquids is not UI, would be maybe long U to them. So they're going to know solids and liquids because they're going to have heard the word and seen the word, and they already know the word, right? Especially if they're doing some pre-activities on it. So I'm going to assign that, and I want to align. That's why I have both of the tabs open. I want to align that with the assignments that I create over here in reading progress. So the same week, what I do is assign ReadWorks the first 2 days of the week as their independent reading time. And then the next 2 days, 2 separate passages. And then the next 2 days, they're going to go back to those same passages and read them for fluency. Later on in the year, you might want to swap that and have them read those passages as a cold read or not. The choice is yours. As the expert, you are in control, my friends. That is why I highly suggest you use these sample passages in the sample library before you deep dive into the other ones. Going forward, I will probably use ReadWorks passages. I can export them as a reading document as a PDF and upload them into reading progress. So even after I use all the passages this year, I might pull some more content in from ReadWorks, because that is a great. Thank you, Microsoft, for thinking of that. I don't know who thought of that, but that is an empowering smash right there. So let's smash these tools and make better readers. Back to the main topics. Turn my mic back on. So to recap that, and I'm kind of glad I kind of recorded that demo because you can't see me. So we know best practice in the science of reading is background knowledge plus fluency equals comprehension. If you've never heard that before, please look into that. So the best practice in using those sample passages that are already given to us by the brilliant minds of Microsoft are to start with that sample library and find a text that maybe aligns to the content you're teaching. You'll notice most of them are nonfiction texts. And then find the same passage in ReadWorks and use the power of ReadWorks and those vocabulary tools and those comprehension question sets and that audio. It's okay to use audio, right? Even with the readers, we really need that background knowledge. We really need to increase the amount of words our students are hearing. And what better way than to do it in a passage they're reading for fluency anyways. So that's my from the classroom, from the trenches tip on how to amplify that sample library. So at this time, I would like your thoughts. Have you used ReadWorks before? Do you know of ReadWorks? Or how will you use ReadWorks in the future? So if you have a thought, you're just pressing to share, please share so we can all learn from each other, all right? Crowdsource our power. And while you're sharing your thoughts on ReadWorks, I'll move on. So we're going to get back to our story. Now we have created the assignment, and since we're pro teachers, we also assigned it in ReadWorks at the same time, so they are making connections to what they're reading and what they're learning. Imagine. So now let's see how the student reads the passage. So when the student opens their team's assignment, either in whatever device they're using, my students use iPads, and it looks just like this. They use computers, it looks just like this. So the power of, if you don't use Microsoft Teams, you need to. And if reading progress doesn't bring you over, I don't know what will. So the student will see the assignment just like they see all of their other assignments, and then they will simply click on the name of the passage. Once they click on the name of the passage, it's going to pop up with a little prompt for them to start reading. You may set up a reading corner, you may set up a recording studio, but you really don't have to. I have found that it is not so sensitive that you need a quiet space for them to record. My students just record wherever they are at in their literacy workstations or wherever they are at home. And even if there's some background noise, it's still a powerful tool. So don't worry about, oh, I don't have a quiet corner. I have 27 students. So don't worry about that. As soon as the child clicks on start reading, they will be prompted with a 3, 2, 1 countdown. This helps them to focus, recenter, and then they're brought to their reading passage. You'll notice on the top of the recording screen, there's recording, and the students will see that to know it's recording. You will also notice something else more accessible is that the student can click on these text and change their preferences on how they like to read. The same as we do with our Kindle readers, right? And then once the student changes, and then it looks good for them, they're going to go back to the passage. You'll see it's paused right now. Once they return to the passage, it's going to start recording again. You'll notice on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a scroll bar right here. I say that because I didn't know that initially, and my students were only reading half of the passage. And even my students that like to read were only reading half of the passage, all right? And so I discovered that they weren't scrolling all the way down. So make sure they're scrolling all the way down and kind of model for them that they need to go all the way to the I'm done section, and then they'll get to the bottom. Once they click on I'm done, they will be brought to the preview your video. Like I said, I require my students to do rereading for fluency, so they have to do it 2 times. So they have to push play, listen to themselves, and then start over. The smartness behind reading progress is going to tell me how many attempts they took. And so I'll know if they attempted it again or not. I'm not sure if they watched their video or not, but at least I know they reread for fluency. All right. When they're done, they're going to click on I'm finished, and they're going to be brought back to the assignment page. You'll see over here on the right side, there's a turn-in page. Sometimes my students forget to turn it in. I mean, they're only 6 and 7 years old, but that's okay. Right now, at this stage, that magic of reading progress is happening behind the scenes, regardless if they click that turn in button or not. The teacher will be able to go in on her side or his side and click on turn in for students. So don't worry about that. And now what do? The student has turned it in. Now it's time for the teacher to review the assignments. As soon as the child turns in the assignment, or even if they didn't, you'll notice that Juan, the first student, has viewed their assignment. If I click on that viewed assignment for Juan, I can see inside his assignment whether he's recorded already or not. And then that's where I can turn it in for him. But I see that Crystal has turned it in. So I'm going to click on Crystal's name, well, her turned in, And then I'm going to be brought to this powerful page. And you saw this a little bit in the video, and maybe you were like, oh, wow, there's a lot of nice colors on the page. Oh, there's some percentages. Oh, it gave a correct words per minute. What does all of this mean? Well, here's the magic, my friends. When I did this on paper and pencil, it took me a long time if I ever did get back to this type of analytics on a reading prompt, right? And so we not only get her recording in her time, but we also get marked words with the error, what type of errors that the artificial intelligence believes she made, right? Well, what if I don't agree with that? That's okay. If I click on the word landforms, I can then scroll down and click jump to word, and I will hear just that word and how the student read it. It might be that the student didn't say it loud enough, but I can hear it on the recording, so I can mark it correct. It might be that she did not mispronounce it, but she did another type of error. So I can easily correct the error, right? There are some really cool updates coming that I'm excited about, but for now, this is what it is. So your thoughts in the chat box. And I want to reflect a little bit about how this refers to or compares to paper and pencil running records. So your prompt right now, your data dump, your thinking is, how does this compare to paper pencil running records? You might be so overwhelmed with the amazement of reading progress that you don't remember. You don't remember poor Miss Peterson when she took 5 minutes for every child, 163 minutes a week, and all she got was a stack of papers with some markings on them that she didn't remember. So if you would, please go ahead and share your response or your thinking on how this is really going to empower us as educators and learners as developers of literacy skills. So while you're sharing your feedback, I want to go back to returning the assignment to students. So right now I went through all the words and I listened to them and I saw if the errors matched their actual mistakes. That way my data that's going to be collected is more accurate, right? So that's kind of an important step to do initially. Then I'm going to click return and return it to the student. I have some options. You'll see over here where it's highlighted. It says return full report to student, and then I can edit that. So maybe I don't want the full report to go to the student. Maybe I just want a simplified report, right? So this is what a full report will look like if I just return this as a full report for the student. You see that she sees exactly kind of what the teacher saw, right? For my students, if they saw a number and it wasn't like 100 or even a 80 or a 90, even in second grade, they know what grades mean. So that would already stress them out, especially those that are not yet at those rates, right? So this is what I initially do for my students. I send them the simplified report. That way they just see the colors, and we talk about in teacher conference, we talk about what the different errors mean. And so they get to learn those words like omission and mispronunciation and repetitions, and they get to see what that means in their own performance. But I just want to point out that it's okay to simplify your reports, even for your older students, because those rates really aren't important. What's important is the rates don't stay the same, right? So now the teacher has sent that report back to the student. That's great. Those are just like grading, right? But we must use that data, those insights, to track progress over time. And so you see this amazing data, however you want to say it, report that the teacher did not have to do. The teacher did not have to sit with her passages and put them into an Excel document and figure out how to do growth over time models. It's done for her in insights, right? And you can see this is over time, average word per minute, accuracy rate, many insights and analytics that we don't have time to go into today. I just wanted to show you an overview of what you're going to see as soon as you start using reading progress and they do it a few times. This data is just going to get richer and more valuable to you. Something else that is current is it will give you a list of their challenge words. And since this is an overall view of the classes, like a snapshot of how they did on that assignment, or that reading passage, this is an overall list of the words that they missed. And I highlight this here because I'm going to show you in a moment how the challenging words are used further to coach our students. So if you would like to, another chat box response, I don't know if you want to type again, how will reading progress improve student outcomes in literacy? Especially for those of you that are used to that paper and pencil and you know the power in that, or for those of you that are coaching teachers and helping them to increase outcomes in increase student growth so we get better outcomes in literacy, right? The most important thing in our country in education right now to me is our literacy rates. That's why I'm so passionate about reading first. So on that, I'm trying to speed through just a little so we get to this part. Now the students and the teachers have assigned, read, reviewed, analyzed their mistakes. But as the teacher, I still feel that, well, that's great. That's like 1,000 times better than what it was before. But I still have to get to my kids to coach them. I still need to get to my kids. I have a list of challenging words. I have 27 lists of challenging words each student had. I know their need, but I got to get to them before we can fill those gaps, right? Well, let me show you this, my friends.
Helping kids learn how to read is one of the most challenging topics that an educator has on their plates. I started using Reading Progress in the fall of last year, and what's nice is not only can we have more students being assessed at the same time, but the students themselves want to read more. They love being able to read out loud, they love knowing that they're on camera, they love being able to watch themselves. They are asking for more opportunities for Reading Progress assignments, taking ownership of their learning, and all of the tools in Reading Progress really let them do that.
The seasons, the Atomos pair, and all the natural.
These words were the most challenging for you. Select any word to tackle them again. At, must, fear.
Atmosphere.
You are making your brain stronger. Nice work.
Reading Coach is truly a dream come true for teachers. I can have a class of 30 students all getting feedback and individualized instruction, and now they know how to read a word that they were struggled with.
They get almost all of the water they need from their flexible, omnivorous diet.
One of the things that I love about Insights is that I can just scroll right down and it shows me at a glance the words that students were struggling with. And I'm able to see student by student what their needs are, and I can pull them from small group instruction based on what they need. When I see the future of Reading Progress with Reading Coach, I really see how the students are going to respond. They want to do better. They want to improve upon their last attempt when usually they don't have that opportunity. The fact that they can practice reading out loud in a safe space and build their confidence is one of the best things about Reading Progress.
So the great thing is it's summer 2022 now. So these changes are coming now. And I'm most excited about Reading Coach and assigning challenge lists based on the phonics rules that we saw in that video. Again, I'm going to quickly go over these. This was just a review of the upcoming what's coming because we only have 1 minute. And I want to address a question that was in the chat box. So in the chat box, somebody asked if you need permission for students to be recorded and audio taped and videotaped. Of course, that's part of your digital citizenship campus protocols. So just like every other Flipgrid, everything else, it would follow along the same parameters. But you can see the power in that. The reason it is within Teams is so that it's in that secure environment. So I really suggest you reach out to your district folks. I'm not sure who handles IT and security on your campus. If you're a teacher, just reach out to your administrator and find out. But I guarantee there's a way to do it so students are empowered. So today it is 1:15 or probably 2:15 your time. We discovered the reading progress. We explored reading progress in action, and we extended the learning by connecting it with ReadWorks. And also another question in the chat box was, does it give you a suggested level? The ReadWorks passages are leveled by Lexile level. The reading progress passages are whatever you upload to them if it's not in the sample library. So anything you already have that's already leveled. My best practice as an early reading instructor is to use decodable readers until they're fluent and then use their levels. That way you can focus on those foundational skills and really amplify learning and accelerate their instruction. So I apologize that you can't see me through this whole thing. And at least you saw me in a little video. Please reach out anytime you need a question. If you have a question about Teams, reading progress, reading coach, or want to collaborate on what we're doing in the classes together, I love to collaborate. We are actually better together always. So please scan the resources before you head out. In the resources, there's the session redeem code that you can redeem in the Microsoft Learn for credit towards your MIE transcript. If you're not sure what that is, ask us. And I think my time is up. I'm 2 minutes over.